I know Jose Quintana since he was with the Yankees in the minor leagues. So it's probably the first time I had an opportunity to talk to him since 2011, other than just, competing against him at the big league level. But yeah, it was great to finally meet Mark Vientos in person, after talking to him over the phone a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, like you say, it's important to start creating that connection, and it was good for those guys to be here too.
What is your message to someone like Mark, who's trying to establish himself at this level, comes in new manager? What do you say to a guy like that?
I mean, there's going to be a lot of conversations, but at the end of the day, it's just being themselves, Keep doing what they got you to this level. There's always room for improvement for everyone, right? But it starts from being himself and just concentrating on the thing he does well on the field and off the field, and that's basically it.
He played a lot of DH last year. What is your philosophy on somebody, like a developing player like him, playing primarily DH? Does he need to be in the field more often? Where do you kind of stand on that?
Yeah, at the end of the day, development is both sides of the ball, right? But it depends how the roster shapes out as well. As long as he's getting at bats, and if he's getting at bats, he's producing, right? But we had that conversation too about his defense, and he's putting a lot of work. Credit to him. He's putting a lot of work on his defense, on his body, on his agility, his mobility. He spent a week with Lindor. He's planning on making a visit again with him in January. So I'm excited. Just having those conversations with him in the early going. He knows that defense is something that he needs to work on, and he's doing that. But at the end of the day, he's got to be himself. He's got to go out there. He's got to work on some of the things that he needs to get better at. But we'll see what happens.
Carlos, how do we look at the
Ronny Mauricio's injury?
I feel for the kid. We all do, First and foremost, like we know how hard he's worked, to get to a point where he's, scheduled to compete, for an opening day roster spot, and to see something like that happen, not only to Mauricio but anybody, it's awful, So now is putting him in a position to get back on the field. He's going through a lot of tests right now and see where we are with that. And, we're going to support him. We're going to be there for him and do whatever we need to do to get him back on the field and have him perform the way he's capable of.
How does that change the way you look at your third base situation?
Well, I don't know if they change. Obviously we went into, we've been saying that we have a lot of depth, right? And he was part of that depth.
Yeah.
We took a hit, and we have to revisit again. But feeling pretty good with what we have. We got Mark, we got Joey, we got guys. Obviously, Brett, same guys that we've been saying all along. But we'll see. I mean, we still got a few weeks, month, before opening day. But like I said, feel good with what we have internally and see what we got.
Do you think he can be back at any point this year?
That's hard to tell. Obviously, like I said, he's going through a lot of tests, and we'll see what the doctors, the reports that we get from the doctors and the medical department, and we'll see where we at. But at the end of the day, we just got to support him.
Have you talked to Mauricio at all?
I did. When the news first came out, obviously, antennas goes up, and then I reached out to him. He didn't seem too concerned at first, but then once we got the news, obviously, not ideal. But again, like I said, it's all on all of us to support him, to be there with him through, the rehab process and making sure he gets back on the field whenever he needs to get back on the field.
How's he feeling? How's he taking the news?
Devastated, obviously, when you hear the news, and it's not easy, it's not easy. But again, we want to be there to support him.
Your front office is pretty busy right now. Do you find yourself kind of like waiting, wondering, for any kind of trickle of news coming in on what
I can't.
What's that like for a?
No, it's just obviously I trust David and all of our people in the front office. Just going through my normal off season. Obviously, just talking to players, talking to coaching staff, getting ready for what spring training is going to look like, and just basically letting David and his people do the work. Obviously, there's conversations here and there, but nothing that I'm like, all right, what do we got next? There's still a lot of names out there, not a secret for everybody, but it's just more like talking to coaches, putting together player plans, how we're going to attack spring training and all that from my end.
Do they have you involved in any recruiting calls with players?
Some of them, yeah. And some of them, depending on the player, and But like I said, it's more like talking to the coaching staff and preparing for spring training and obviously 2024.